Rain lashed down, a relentless torrent. Wind howled like a banshee, tearing at the trees. Lightning split the sky, illuminating a road barely visible. A car, buffeted by the elements, struggled to navigate the treacherous path. Inside, 4 friends huddled together, their faces etched with anxiety.
We should turn back. This storm is too dangerous.
No way, we're already late. We just need to find shelter.
Suddenly, a flash of lightning revealed a towering structure perched atop a hill. A mansion, dark and imposing, silhouetted against the raging storm. Its windows, like vacant eyes, seemed to watch their approach.
Maybe they can help us.
Hope flickered in their eyes. They had no idea what awaited them within those menacing walls. Dr. Henry Moreau, a man driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge, paced his laboratory. His lab, a macabre collection of beakers, surgical tools and strange contraptions, hummed with an unsettling energy. He was a man obsessed, his mind a labyrinth of forbidden experiments and twisted ambitions.
Soon my creation will be complete.
His latest project, a grotesque amalgamation of flesh and metal, lay on a steel table in the center of the lab. It was a testament to his genius and his madness, a creature born of his darkest desires. The storm raged outside, mirroring the tempest within him. He looked at his creation, a twisted smile spreading across his face.
Soon, the world will know the true meaning of fear.
The friends, drenched and shivering, pounded on the mansion's heavy oak door. Minutes crawled by, each tick of the clock amplifying their unease. Just as they were about to give up, the door creaked open. A tall, gaunt figure stood in the doorway, his face hidden in the shadows.
Can I help you?
We need shelter from the storm.
The figure scrutinized them for a moment, his eyes glinting in the darkness.
Very well, come in.
As they crossed the threshold, the door slammed shut with a resounding boom, trapping them within the mansion's cold embrace. The mansion's interior was oppressive, the air thick with the scent of decay and formaldehyde. Cobwebs draped the walls like macabre decorations, and dust lay thick on the antique furniture. The only light came from a flickering chandelier, casting long, dancing shadows. Their host, introducing himself as Dr. Moreau, led them through a labyrinthine corridor. Each footstep echoed in the eerie silence, their unease growing with every passing moment.
What is that sound?
A low, guttural growl seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves, followed by the dragging of chains. The others exchanged nervous glances, their hearts pounding in their chests.
Just the wind.
But his voice lacked conviction. Their host led them into a grand dining room, the table set for a feast. The room was adorned with lavish decorations, chandeliers casting a warm glow over the opulent spread. The guests marveled at the sight, their senses momentarily overwhelmed by the grandeur.
Relief washed over them, momentarily eclipsing their fear. They exchanged glances, their earlier apprehensions fading as they took in the comforting atmosphere. The tension that had gripped them since their arrival seemed to dissipate, replaced by a fleeting sense of normalcy.
But as they sat down, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air. The sound was so sudden and jarring that it shattered the fragile calm, sending a wave of terror through the room. The guests' hearts pounded in their chests, their eyes wide with shock.
The friends froze, their blood turning to ice. They could hardly believe what they had just heard, their minds racing to comprehend the source of the scream. Fear gripped them, paralyzing their movements and silencing their voices.
Dr. Moreau, his composure shattered, jumped to his feet. His face was a mask of panic, his eyes darting around the room as if searching for an unseen threat. The guests watched in stunned silence, their fear mirrored in his frantic movements.
"Stay here," he commanded, his voice laced with panic. The urgency in his tone left no room for argument, but the guests were too frightened to comply. They watched as he hurried towards a concealed door, their curiosity piqued despite their fear.
Driven by a morbid curiosity, they ignored his order and followed him. Their footsteps echoed in the grand hall, each step taking them closer to the source of the scream. The air grew colder, and a sense of dread settled over them, like a heavy shroud.
He led them to a hidden door, concealed behind a tapestry. The door was old and worn, its surface marred by scratches and dents. As he pulled back the tapestry, a chill ran down their spines, the sense of foreboding growing stronger.
As he fumbled with the lock, the horrifying growls grew louder. The sound was unlike anything they had ever heard, a guttural noise that seemed to vibrate through their very bones. The guests exchanged nervous glances, their fear mounting with each passing second.
The door swung open, revealing a laboratory bathed in an eerie green light. The room was filled with strange equipment and bubbling concoctions, the air thick with the scent of chemicals. The green light cast eerie shadows on the walls, adding to the unsettling atmosphere.
In the center, strapped to a table, was a creature out of a nightmare. Its form was grotesque, a twisted amalgamation of different body parts stitched together in a macabre fashion. The sight was so horrifying that it seemed to defy reality, a living embodiment of their worst fears.
A monstrous being, stitched together from various body parts, twitched and thrashed, its eyes burning with a malevolent intelligence. The creature's movements were jerky and unnatural, its glowing eyes fixed on the intruders with a look of pure hatred. The guests recoiled in horror, unable to tear their eyes away from the abomination before them.
The sight was more horrifying than they could have ever imagined. Their minds struggled to process the reality of what they were seeing, the sheer terror of the moment, leaving them speechless. The room seemed to close in around them, the walls echoing with the creature's growls and the guests' gasps of horror. Section 6. Hunted. The creature, sensing their presence, let out a deafening roar. It ripped free from its restraints, its eyes fixing on the terrified intruders.
Run!
Dr. Edward, his face pale with terror, pushed the friends back. "Run!" he screamed, his voice cracking with fear. They didn't need to be told twice. They turned and fled, the creature's enraged roars echoing behind them. They raced through the mansion's twisting corridors, their hearts pounding in their chests. The creature, surprisingly fast despite its grotesque form, was right behind them. Its heavy footsteps shook the very foundation of the mansion. Panic lent wings to their feet as they desperately searched for an escape. Section 7. Race against madness. They dodged cobwebs and leapt over fallen debris, their lungs burning with exertion. The mansion, once a place of eerie silence, was now filled with the sounds of the chase, the pounding of feet, the creature's enraged growls, and their own ragged breaths.
This way!
Jack, always the quick thinker, spotted a window at the end of a hallway. "This way!" he yelled, leading them towards their only hope of escape. The creature, anticipating their move, cut them off, its massive arms swinging out to block their path. They scrambled back, their escape route cut off. They were trapped, cornered like rats in a maze. Desperation fueled their next move. They scattered, hoping to confuse the creature and buy themselves precious seconds. Section 8. Inferno of Escape. As the creature lunged, a deafening crack of thunder shook the mansion, reverberating through its ancient walls. The storm outside raged on, adding to the chaos within. The chandelier above them, its chains snapping under the strain, crashed to the floor with a resounding crash, momentarily distracting their pursuer. The shards of glass scattered across the floor, glinting ominously in the flickering light. Seizing the opportunity, Sarah grabbed a nearby oil lamp, its glass cool and smooth in her trembling hands, and hurled it at a pile of flammable chemicals she had spotted earlier. The lamp sailed through the air, its trajectory true.
"Take this!" she shouted, her voice barely audible over the roar of the storm and the crackling of the flames.
The lamp shattered upon impact, and flames erupted instantly, engulfing the hallway in a fiery inferno. The heat was intense, the air thick with smoke and the acrid smell of burning chemicals. The creature, momentarily disoriented by the sudden blaze, roared in anger and pain. Its monstrous form was silhouetted against the flames, a terrifying sight that would haunt their memories forever. The friends, using the distraction to their advantage, made a mad dash for the window Jack had spotted earlier. Their hearts pounded in their chests as they ran, the flames licking at their heels. They squeezed through the narrow opening, cutting themselves on the jagged shards of glass, but they didn't stop. The pain was a small price to pay for their freedom. They tumbled onto the muddy ground outside, the storm a welcome respite from the horrors within. The rain washed away the blood and soot, a cleansing baptism after their fiery ordeal. They lay there for a moment, gasping for breath, grateful to be alive. Section 9. A Shadow Remains. As they stumbled away from the burning mansion, their hearts pounded with a mix of fear and relief. The once grand structure, now a blazing inferno, cast an eerie glow on the surrounding forest. The storm reached its crescendo with thunderclaps echoing through the night, as if the heavens themselves were enraged by the night's events. Rain lashed down, washing away the blood and grime, creating rivulets of red that snaked through the mud. The relentless downpour seemed to cleanse the earth, but not their souls. Their faces, haunted and drenched, told stories of horror and loss. The memory of that night would forever be etched in their minds, a scar that time could never heal. They watched as the flames consumed the mansion, the heat palpable even from a distance. The fire roared, a beast devouring its prey. Turning it into a raging inferno, the mansion's silhouette flickered and danced in the fiery embrace, a final, violent farewell. The creature's roars, now distant screams, echoed faintly, a reminder of the terror they had narrowly escaped. These screams were swallowed by the howling wind, which seemed to mourn the night's tragic events, rustling the trees in a sorrowful symphony. They had escaped, but at a terrible cost. Their bodies were battered, their spirits broken, and the weight of their losses hung heavily in the air. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of purple and orange, the storm began to wane, leaving behind a world that felt both new and ancient. They stumbled upon the main road, exhausted and traumatized, their steps heavy with the burden of survival. The road stretched out before them, a path to an uncertain future. They had survived the night, but the relief was bittersweet. The dawn's light revealed their haunted expressions, eyes that had seen too much. They knew deep down that some nightmares never truly end. The events of the night would linger, a shadow that would follow them forever. For as they turned back for one last glance at the smouldering ruins of the mansion, a chill ran down their spines. The once formidable structure now lay in ruins, a testament to the horrors within. They could have sworn they saw a figure silhouetted against the dying flames, a ghostly presence that refused to be forgotten. A tall, gaunt figure, his eyes gleaming with an unholy light, stood amidst the wreckage, a reminder that some evils are never truly vanquished. Dr. Edward and his creations might be gone, but their legacy of terror remained. The lab, once a place of twisted science, now a dark memory. The evil that haunted those walls was far from extinguished. It lingered, a malevolent force waiting for the next chapter to unfold.